had culminated in a final boulder. The result of the men's division had already been confirmed, with Nathaniel Coleman besting all other competitors in a star-making performance in his home state. It was a historic moment in its own right, but more thrilling was the result of the women's division, which remained far more open-ended. In fact, 4 of the United States' greatest competitors, Brooke Rabbitou, Claire Burfind, Ashima Shiraishi, and Alex Puccio, were in contention to become the women's national champion. Their respective attempts to climb the last boulder would determine the outcome. However, there was more than just a revered championship on the line. An announcement that climbing was to be included in the 2020 Olympics had recently provided the whole sport with a jolt of energy, and this championship's exhilarating conclusion would give direct insight about the United States' Olympic prospects. Indeed, whichever woman won this bouldering national championship would be considered one of the early American favorites for a possible invitation to the impending Olympic Games. On top of that newfound Olympic sheen, indoor climbing was in the midst of a popularity boom in the United States. There were more than 400 climbing gyms around the country, and that number was increasing each year. In congested urban areas, old factories and abandoned warehouses were being purchased by developers and repurposed as climbing gyms. Brooklyn Boulders, First Ascent, Earth Treks, Planet Granite, Momentum Climbing, Mesa Rim, Hangar 18, Hoosier Heights, and other gyms seemed to be constantly expanding with new facilities. With them, new life was being breathed into forsaken real estate, and the sport of climbing was being offered more and more in the American recreational milieu. Students at colleges could now take climbing classes, and children as young as 3 years old could enroll in climbing gyms' youth clubs. Some American climbers had become veritable celebrities, with lucrative sponsorship arrangements and financial support from companies ranging from Patagonia and the North Face to Polo and Coca-Cola. Underlying all these extraneous elements at the Salt Palace Convention Center that afternoon was a palpable competitive tension. The event was offering spectators, both inside the facility and watching a live stream online, athletic theater that had long characterized other sports like baseball, football, basketball, and tennis. Specifically, the women's bouldering division was herein presenting a nail-biting finish and proving competition climbing to be exciting, engaging, and unpredictable. And with that, the first few women competitors, Margot Hayes, Megan Martin, and Brooke Rabbitou, made their respective attempts at climbing the final boulder. It was not an easy task. The boulder's climbing route began beneath a long roof section. Successfully reaching the top for any competitor would entail first crouching below the roof, then moving horizontally over its crowd-facing ledge, and returning to a vertical position to reach the last handhold. Every sequence would require a mix of strength and coordination, as well as a compartmentalization of the fatigue that was reaching its weekend peak. Hayes, Martin, and Rabbitou were undoubtedly 3 of the best climbers in the entire world. Hayes had successfully climbed famed outdoor routes in countries around the world, such as La Rambla and Biography in Spain and France, respectively. The ascents, each among the most challenging of all the established climbs, had justifiably made Hayes a climbing icon of her generation. Martin, iconic in her own right, had coupled her decorated competitive climbing career with much admired appearances on the sports entertainment television program American Ninja Warrior. And Rabbitou, whose parents are legendary competitors Didier and Robin Erbisfield Rabbitou, had become the youngest person ever to climb a route at a difficulty grade of 514B when she climbed Spain's Welcome to Tijuana at age 11. Yet as Hayes, Martin, and Rabbitou attempted to ascend the boulder at the national championship, they each became bested by the climbing route's steep roof section. When it was clear that none of them would be able to successfully climb to the top of the boulder in the allotted time, the crowd began to murmur. The tension continued to mount, as the championship's result was undetermined. The next competitor to make an attempt on the boulder was Burfind. She was noted for being possibly the best American all-around climber. She had dabbled in multiple competitive disciplines over the years, and was certainly capable of reaching the top of the boulder's burly sequence. To provide support, the crowd cheered as Burfind began her attempt and worked through the boulder's balance-centric lower section. Reaching the top on this final boulder would be somewhat redemptive for Burfind, since she had not reached the top of the previous 2 boulders in the competition. It was another plot line.